Welcome to Lost Culture, the one-stop destination for everything pop culture. My name's Aston, and today we're going to do a quick reaction for the Power Season 3, Episode 1, Call Me James. So, the way we're going to do it, we're going to go from character to character. At the end, we'll give us our ups, our downs, and then we're going to say who has the power move of the week. So, before we get started, Power is a show who follows the life of James St. Patrick. In this season, he's a former drug dealer. He's trying to go on a straight and narrow, but the ghost of his past keeps pulling him back into the street world of New York. It's centered over the 5 boroughs of New York, so it's not just one borough, it's over the whole borough. And he's a family man that's basically is trying to go on a straight and narrow, but the sins of his past just won't let him. Alright, let's start talking about the episode. So this week, there's no Kanan, there's no Ruiz, and there's no Keisha. So we're not going to be covering them at all this week. But the first person we want to talk about is Angela. So when we see Angela in this episode, initially it looks like her and Ghost have mended all their issues from the last season. They're making little flirty jokes about him making her money. We see him walking around the club. He's showing her off as his, I wouldn't say his wife, but as his main girl, like his official girl. And then once we see them get in private into James's office, we see that she's still scarred from last season. She's still a little hesitant. We still see that she's not really willing to let go. She's like James is just trying to move forward and not worried about the past, but Angela can't let go of the past. She's still worried when she sees him with Julio. She sees Julio and then she automatically, James is up to no good. He's reverting back to Ghost. But as we all know, that isn't the case. And the most interesting thing about this is that at the end of the episode, she told James, well, not at the end, near the end, she told James about Lobo still being alive. So she was still willing to risk her career to ensure James can do whatever he has to do to stay safe. Even though she told him, do not hurt Lobos, it'll fall back on her. It was like, don't hurt him, but do what you have to do to ensure we're safe. So we'll find out how that turns out later on in the season. The next character I want to talk about is Greg. So Greg just will not give up the case. I understand he's upset about what happened last season. I would be upset too. I feel like he's just going about it the wrong way. Like focusing on James is right, but going to the club, just blatantly being in the club, blatantly asking questions. He knows he's not allowed to touch Tommy, so I don't know why he even brought Tommy into the mix. Bringing up Kantos' past, I don't know if he's going to use Kantos as a way in to say, oh, they're prostituting out of truth. But I personally think Greg is digging himself into a hole deeper, which I really wouldn't expect of an FBI agent. Even though in this show, the FBI agents are all basically out for their own. I just don't see this going anywhere well for Kanto for Greg. But so with Greg being fought and done, let's talk about Mike. So as we see Mike still with Lobos, after everything, Mike is still protecting Lobos. He's making sure he's attempting to get Lobos out of the country to ensure Lobos' safety. Then the big thing about Mike, he shows us that Mike no longer wants to be involved with Lobos. Once Lobos is free of this charge, he wants basically just to go separate paths. Obviously, Lobos doesn't like that. Lobos isn't going to allow that to happen, from my opinion. We see how he's how he was with Ghost and Tommy. Like Ghost either had to kill Tommy or Tommy and Ghost was going to die. So we don't know how, and we all know how that turned out. But so another thing is Mike. He continually tells Lobos, "Do not harm Angela. Angela is our key to getting you off this case." So I feel like Mike is hoping Angela's gonna mess up again, which she technically already did. So maybe with Angela telling Ghost that information, it'll it'll get them to throw out the case. But I feel like Mike has something bigger planned for Angela. Like even though he's protecting her to protect himself, like he knows if anything happens to Angela, he'll probably get in trouble also. But I think it's more than that. I feel like yes, Angela's against Lobos, which basically makes her a thorn in his side. He still doesn't want anything to happen to her because he does feel like she's a good prosecutor. She's great at her job to a degree, and that she'll be great to take over for him maybe one day. So I don't really, even though he's a bad guy, I don't think he's fully a bad guy. I feel like he's just a good guy, maybe in a bad situation. So that's all we have on Mike. So the next person we're going to start talking about is Lobos. Lobos. Obviously, we all know he survived the attack on him. He's going with the story that the Jimenez are the cartel are the one who attacked him, even though we know he knows Ghost did it. Like, I don't know if he killed the waitress, but he definitely had something to do with killing the waitress. She has the card that Ghost left to frame the cartel. We see the card is in the desk, and I like how Lobos, even though he knows he's in a bad predicament, he's still Lobos. He's in the office with Angela talking reckless, talking super crazy, which is silly. It was super funny. We have Lobos when he shaved, he somehow kept the shank and was getting ready to stab Mike. Mike is a lot faster than me. I probably would have caught the shank. We see he no longer only wants to kill Ghost. He kind of wants to kill Angela also. And due to money situation, I feel like he's working with Tommy just to move his product. He can't really get a new distro for New York at the moment. So he's kind of like forced to use Ghost. Not use Ghost, but use Tommy. Especially since Ghost took out all the other high players. He had Ruiz go away. I don't think Ruiz is actually gone for good, but he had Ruiz go away. So Lobos was really forced into a corner to work with Tommy. And I don't think that relationship is going to end too well. We already seen. I'm thinking that Lobos has something to do with the puppy. We didn't get to see Holly. I don't know if Holly's kidnapped, but somebody was obviously in Tommy's apartment. The dog is dead, and things don't seem like they're going to be doing too good this season. So, with that being said, let's move over to Tommy. Tommy is getting wilder. He's a lot more unstable. We see him setting up his new network. We see I think they're Chinese, but they obviously don't. They didn't like Ghost. They didn't really tell us why they don't like Ghost. They're basically racist towards black people. But the face Tommy made when they told him that obviously shows. Even though Tommy and Ghost are going through their issues, Tommy still has a spot in his heart for Ghost. He's not just, oh, I'm mad at Ghost, he's done. They show us that even though they're upset at each other, those two still have each other's back. Like they still care for each other. That friendship they have is still there. And obviously, it probably isn't really going to go anywhere. Like that's always there. Even when Tommy's across the street, Tommy could have did something reckless. He really didn't do anything reckless. He just came, showed up, showed his face to let Ghost know, like, hey, I'm still out here. I'm still gonna do me, and there's really nothing you can do about it. And I actually like that. Like, in my mind, it makes Tommy like, if me personally, if I'd have seen Tommy around across the street just staring at me, I'm like, now I gotta mess with this crazy motherfucker. And that's really it. And what else? What I think about Tommy this episode? So Tommy is just off the rails. Like, he has nobody to give him guidance. He can do anything he wants to do. He's he's not like Ghost. He doesn't want to be like Ghost. He wants the system to run his way. Even with the fact, like, obviously Ghost wanted them to stay under wraps. He doesn't want anybody to see their face. He wanted them just to be like the mystery. He wanted them to be like the CEO of Pepsi. You might not know who Pepsi is, but you love Pepsi. So with that being said, Tommy doesn't want that anymore. Tommy wants to be the Diddy of the Coke game. Tommy wants to be out here dancing in the videos. He wants everybody to know that he's with the shits and he's willing to get down out here. So Tommy, I don't see him lasting. Well, he's always going to last through the season, but if him and Ghost do not get back together, I feel like Tommy's going to have the hardest time sustaining himself, staying off the radar. Tommy don't even care about the cops anymore. He feels like he basically got away. He can do anything he wants to now, and I don't know how much longer he's going to get away with that. But so now we're going to move over to Ghost. Obviously, we see Ghost. He's on a straight and narrow for the whole episode. We see Dre's asking about drugs. We don't do drugs no more. Julio comes in. I got out the Total Locos for you. I'm here for the drugs. I'm here for the drugs with you. I can't do it anymore. Be safe. He only cares about his family, Angela, and I would say somewhat Tasha. He doesn't really care too much about Tasha. He really only cares about her because she has his kids. But we see Ghost is really serious about going on the straight and narrow. He wants to build his clubs up. He wants to build up his new night brand that he's going, JSP Entertainment, I think he called it, or Enterprises, one of the two. So he's really serious about becoming a legit businessman in New York. He wants to go further than he was. He doesn't want to be held back by street drama and things of that nature. We see he even mentioned with him going into the business, the nightlife business, he has less time for Angela. He has less time for his kids, which it seems like he was suffering with that. He's used to being able to be a drug lord, and basically he can do the drugs whenever he wanted to. He can just show up to the club when he wanted to because he had Kantos running it for him. So he wasn't really too worried about, oh, I need to be at the club to make sure things are functioning. He knew with the drug things, he had Julio in charge and Tommy there also. So he has had to make a phone call. Things would get done. Somebody needed to get killed. He normally had Tommy on that line of the business. So we see him struggling to transition. We see him feeling bad that he no longer has the time he used to have for his children. We see his children are suffering through the shine and him not being home. So when he goes to talk to his kids, we see Tyreek is more aggressive about the whole situation. Like, Tyreek doesn't understand the nature of where his parents came from, the drug game, the ghetto. And I personally feel like Tasha didn't do the best job in letting her children know about what was going on. And even through that, she was subtly throwing shots at Ghost when, like, we would never really know what's going on. Like, kind of implying, maybe the kids didn't pick up on it, but for Ghost, it was like, you told me Kanan did it, but I still think you did it. I still think you're responsible for what happened to Sean. Which in a way, Ghost is, but it was indirectly. So that's really all I have on Ghost. We're going to move over to Tasha. So Tasha, we don't really see too much of Tasha. Anytime we see Tasha, she's basically parenting or parenting. We see her one scene with Tommy. She has two scenes with Ghost. The first scene with Tommy, we see her basically trying to fact check Ghost, basically making sure Ghost told her he picked up Tommy. So she made sure he picked up Tommy. Ghost told her he killed Kanan. So she asked Tommy if Ghost killed Kanan. Tommy confirmed all those facts, and she believes it, but she's still having a hard time to believe Sean that Sean wasn't killed by Ghost, because she knows Ghost knew about their relationship. She knows Sean tried to kill Ghost, and with those two things being alone, normally with Ghost is enough for murder. So she's still having a hard time to adjust to that. And now she's trying to adjust to teenage kids. They're actually old enough to question what's going on in their lives, why dad isn't home. They notice he's never home anymore. So, and they're adjusting to that. They're not having a father figure in the home. And on top of that, like the big brother figure, basically, is also dead, not around anymore. And I feel like this is a hard thing to talk to your kids about. But when you're in that life, you need to make sure, like, even though like Sean wasn't really inside the drug game, he kind of volunteered himself to that. They made sure Sean was safe until, of course, Kanan got home. But I feel like they should pick the staff that are actually around their children a little more careful. And Tariq, obviously, like the conversation really didn't work too well for him. So, and another thing is they never really addressed that Ghost. They addressed that Ghost isn't coming home, but they never told their children about the divorce. If they really plan on introducing their kids to Angela, I felt like they should have maybe covered that too, or maybe they did cover it. They just didn't show it. It might have got cut on the floor, but we'll find out in the future episodes. Who else didn't we talk about? We didn't talk about Holly, so let's get on to Holly. Let's talk about Holly. Holly, I really don't like Holly. Holly, she wants to be more involved, and for Tommy, he understands she really shouldn't be involved. He really shouldn't tell her everything he does, just in case she get pulled in again. Obviously, she got pulled in last season. She came really close to breaking, and he doesn't. He doesn't know she almost broke, but he knows she's a target. They're willing to pull her in. They're willing to talk to her, and if they do talk to her, he really won't know because she covered it up last season. So she was even working with Angela to get Tommy off, but in turn, she was going to put someone else under the boat for Tommy, which I don't think is a good idea. I don't think Tommy likes that at all. Tommy would rather go down, even though we almost seen Tommy break too, but Tommy would rather go down than to get other people in trouble for something he messed up on. And with that being said, there's not really too much to talk about Holly. So we're gonna move over to with Julio. So Julio, we get to see Julio. He he lets Ghost know what's going on in the streets. He lets Ghost know he really doesn't want to work with Tommy. He got out of the old gang to work with Ghost, not Tommy. Ghost. Ghost will put him in the position he's in to take care of his family and all those things. His loyalty over all things is to Ghost, not Tommy. But once Ghost turns him down, he really has no choice but to continue to work with Tommy. He knows it's unsafe. He he tried to let Tommy know, like, hey, you really shouldn't be showing your face. Like, this really isn't how we should run business. If we're going to go out here and actually do the murder business, we shouldn't put our faces to it. We shouldn't let the streets know it was us. We should make sure, hey, we know we messed with this gang. They told us not to do it. Somebody came up missing. They don't really need to have a target to go oh, last time that happened, Tommy did it. So maybe Tommy's doing it again. No, he feels like we should do it how they've always done it. Keep it under the radar. Somebody gets out of line. We just do what we have to do. Everybody just wonders who did it. like they did in the last previous seasons, which always works. When they thought Roller was out of line, they killed him. And the whole, it didn't get back into order, but a lot of people were like, damn, if Roller could die, any of us could die. So I like how they used to do it. I really not into how Tommy's doing it. The only thing I didn't like is when Tommy moved the railroad boxes. And Holly told him, oh, you're smart because you're moving them. You're not really smart. You're doing the same plan Ghost told you to do. You're just putting in new locations where Ghost can't get a hold of them. But obviously, if Ghost wanted them, he could have went and got them whenever. But he didn't want them, so the money isn't really an issue to him. He wants to go legal. Another person we haven't talked about yet either is Kantos. We see Kantos and Greg interact this season. We saw Kantos was asking a lot about. We seen Greg was asking Kantos a lot about previous things, about like a guest prostitute. They alluded to it in the prior seasons. They never really went full in about what Kantos was into. This season, they actually basically said it. Kantos was a pimp. Kantos was selling women after hours in his previous clubs. And they also show us that Kantos really doesn't hold loyalty. Kantos is all about himself. He's all about the winning team. Anytime, if he thinks he can get a ring with the next team, he's taking his talent to South Beach. He does not really care who he's working for. All he cares about is his paycheck, his position of power, and being on the winning team. So, like we see, he's bragging about how he fucked over Stein's VIP list. He stole the list, gave it to James, and now James has it. He deleted it from Stein's computer, so it'll take at least a month for Stein to get it back. And after all that, he ends up getting fired. He never gets a chance to tell James about Greg being in the club, questioning about what kind of business they're running. And honestly, I completely agree with James's opinion to fire Kantos because last season, Kantos came in. He came in. He didn't even tell James like, "Oh, Stein about to promote me over you. Stein wants me to change the books." He could have warned James about this, and he didn't. So it's completely his fault that he got fired. He deserved to get fired. He had no loyalty, and there's really no room for that within the type of business James was trying to run. So, hey, it has to happen like that. And the next character we're going to talk about is Dre. Dre is personally one of my favorite side characters. We see he has a daughter. We see last season he was all about, I wonder, like, Kanan's crazy. Near the end anyway, Kanan's crazy. I want to be safe. I want to be here for my daughter. This season, he's talking to Ghost. When he's talking to Ghost, he's like, "Oh, I want to look clean, but I still want to be street. I want to look like I have a legitimate job, but I still want to sell drugs. I still want to be able to carry my gun. I still want to have street cred." And I actually understand that. He's used to, when he was growing up, he's used, if you don't have street cred, you don't really have anything. And with that being said, he's only been out of I don't know how long the break was. It couldn't have been too long because when the show started, James still had all of his scars from the fight with Kanan. So he really didn't have any time to transition. He had maybe a night. Kanan died, and now Dre's in the club. He wearing suits. He's no longer allowed to sell drugs. He's no longer allowed to hang out on the corners. I don't know if he still has the little rib shack and that he used to have last season. We see he's still allowed to carry a gun. He finds the card, but he doesn't. He knows it's messed up. Like he knows, oh, this is obviously a threat. But he doesn't question James about this episode. We see in the and what's going to happen next episode, how they're saying Dre is actually questioning the card. He knows, like, hey, if you're in danger, that means I'm in danger. So we see him questioning I want to see Dre develop a little bit more. I want to see him actually go beyond only wanting to be in the streets. I want to see him actually being interested in being more involved in the club, wanting to get promoted higher within the club and make the extra money. And with that being said, that's really all the characters we have this episode. So let's talk about the ups and downs for this episode. So the ups is that we got to see more characters like being developed. This season we actually got to see the kids being more developed. We get to see Tariq. He seemed like he's gonna have a bigger role this season. They give us more time with Dre. Not that like Dre actually had a little bit of time in the episode. We actually get to see his art. We got to see Dre on different aspects. What else do I like about the episode? I like how they show Ghost is still struggling to be in the streets. Well, the state could be completely out of the streets. And what I didn't like about this episode is Tasha's character. I I personally feel like Tasha's character is a lot more ignorant than she should be. Even with having kids, she should have thoughts rather than, oh, she shouldn't be so crazy, I feel like. And then what was another thing? Oh, the opening sequence. I feel like before we got any story, we had a sex scene. I think like the sex scene, I don't mind sex scenes in the show. I don't have any problem against the sex scenes. I just feel like we should have at least got a little bit more story before they just do a sex scene in our face. Like, we don't just come for the sex scenes. A lot of people come for the story. The sex scenes are a nice bonus. But let's get a little much more story before we just see a little quick sex scene. Like, we're here for more than just like the sex. But like I said, I have no problem against the sex scenes at all. I just thought it was a little early. We didn't get any story. We didn't get any development. So we did get to see the power struggle within the sex scene that they normally have with the sex scenes. And then I don't have really too many other downs for the episode. I don't have really too many downs for the episode. In my opinion, the power move this week would go to Tommy. Even though I think Tommy was acting really reckless, my favorite scene of the episode is when Tommy bubble wrapped the rival gang and threw him off the roof. And like, to me, that was still funny. It was still completely within Tommy's character to do things like that. We've seen Tommy burn people and make jokes about it. So when he bubble wrapped them and threw him off the roof, and him and Julio had a bet about it, I thought like that's something Tommy would do, and that's like so that made that win my favorite moment of the week. So that's our power move of the week. That's all we have for this week. Thank you for joining in. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like what you hear. Leave a comment so you think I forgot something. I'll respond to you. If you have any other questions, let me know. And don't forget to follow Lost Culture on Instagram at Lost_Culture and to follow me on Instagram at Saint_Aston. Look forward to seeing you next week. And always stay lost.